Welcome to the dungeon. I'm Emma. I run Wizard Bikes, a custom frame building brand here on Vancouver Island. And this is my shop. This is the second shop that Wizard has run out of. The first one was in the basement of the bike shop I was working at for a few years. It was a dark, windowless, moldy, wet, flooded in the winter, absolute, real, actual dungeon. And the more time I was spending down there, the sicker I was getting. I was getting a classic case of mold poisoning. And then I put out some feelers that I was looking for a new shop. And some friends of mine pointed me in the direction of this one. It is just around 200 square feet, so it's super small. But the way I have it laid out right now gets absolutely everything done that I need it to. One of the backbones of my shop is my frame jig. This machine here holds all of the tubes into a bike-shaped device once I've got all the tubes cut up. And it is from Cobra Frame Building Tools. It is the Cobra Creator. And this is, I guess, the third frame jig that I've used. I used a friend's frame jig for a while. I built my own kind of janky frame jig. And then once I started doing this full time, I got the Cobra. It's super precise, super easy to set up. And one of the main reasons I went with the Cobra compared to some of the other options available is that the Cobra allows me to build anything from a BMX to a road bike to a super progressive mountain bike. Some of the other frame jigs out there don't let you do positive BMX bottom bracket rises for BMXs, or they won't let you go as slack of a head tube or as steep as a seat tube that I do on my mountain bike. So this was one of the few that could check everything off the list for me. And I have the frame jig mounted on a bike stand, like a Park Tool bike stand. So it spins around, and then on the other side I just have a normal bike stand mount on it. So this is super helpful for when I'm building up bikes, doing repairs on frames and all of that. It's so nice to have both the Park Tool clamp and then the frame jig just on the same mount. It's super helpful since my shop is so small that it takes up pretty much no footprint at all, and it's super easy to switch between the two depending on what I'm doing. Next up in the tools that I wouldn't be able to do my job without is my mini mill. This is a mini mill from King Industrial. I'm in Canada, so this is what it's sold under. In the States, it's sold under the Grizzly brand name, and it's the exact same mill. And it's actually easier for me to get replacement parts through Grizzly in the States than it is King in Canada, and all the parts just fully transfer over. I mainly use it for mitering tubes, so I've got a collection of hole saws loaded up on arbors in all the common sizes that I use, so it's super quick and easy to grab what I'm working on. And in these drawers I have all of my R8 collets and end mills loaded up, so it's super easy for me to swap between cutting holes, doing machining operations. And I built this wooden bench for it. You can get these stands for the mini mills that take up like a really small footprint, but I like that I can put tools down, keep my lube close by, and it just gives me a little bit of workspace on the side of the shop. Right beside the door here, I've got some wheels hanging up. Some of these are customer wheels, some of them are my wheels. I've also got my new gravel frame that you've seen a couple vlogs hanging up here. And I've got my JD Squared 2 bender. This bender is absolutely amazing for bending up handlebars, but it's pretty much only for that. It doesn't do super thin wall tubes super well, so I just use it for handlebars, and it is absolutely amazing for that. Beside the tube bending jig, I've got my vacuum. I vacuum my shop rather than sweep it just because the dust from the brazing flux is super gross and toxic. Got the mill, and then up here I've got rims for customer builds, some of my old cyclocross tubulars, my trailer bob, a couple of different racks that I'm working on, and then just customer frames. Next to the customer frames, I've got my Philly Bike Expo enduro bike in somewhat disarray. The art departments, Brody Monster, my brazing setup, straight gauge steel, so for like handlebars and chain stays and seat stays. And I keep useful scraps of stainless steel, brazing rod, welding rod, useful scraps of steel. And then here I've got head tubes, all my laser cut like branding, bottom brackets, test parts, so like cranks and chain rings and that kind of thing for making sure that I have good clearances on my frames, and then just some new parts. And in these boxes, I have some builds that are coming up. So Everett's getting a frame and fork from me, so this is everything for their bike pulled. And I'm going to be starting this one up next week. This is the fork for my gravel frame that's hanging up over there. I just finished up this fork for a Paragon Machine Work employee. And then I've got tubes for BMXs, and then just normal frame building tubes or bike specific tubes. And then I've got my chainstays down in this box here. I like to keep a few different shapes of chainstays around. This Reynolds chainstay is my favorite gravel bike chainstay. This is a Data Chai triple bend, double bend, triple bend chainstay that I use on pretty much all my mountain bikes. And then I've just got a couple different shapes in here that I don't use as often, just in case there's like a tire and chain ring and chainstay length combination that doesn't quite work with what I normally use. So this is my really big workbench. I built it out of wood because I'm cheap and it works really well, and I can replace this top if I ever want to. And this side is a slab of stone from my landlord's yard. And I do all my brazing on this. It soaks up the heat really well. I don't have to worry about the flux corroding the stone like it would with steel. And I keep a bunch of kind of chunks of steel on the workbench here to hold stuff in place, make little like temporary jigs and stuff like that. And I've got, hanging on the wall, I've got some manufacturer specs for like UDH, flat mount, post mount, rim brakes, front derailleur mounts, all that kind of stuff just hanging up on the wall so I can quickly reference it while I'm working on frames. I've got a poster of some of my favorite hockey players, and then some art from some friends. With my big beautiful workbench, I also have it bolted to the wall so that when I'm working in the vise, like unsticking a seat post or trying to bend something in the vise, it's not rattling around. One of my biggest pet peeves at some of the bike shops I worked at was when the bench would wiggle around when you're really yamming on something in the vise, and bolting it to the wall solved that issue really quick. And then in this corner, I've got some spray paint from when the art department was spray painting more frames. And I've got my FAR Tools chainstay jig, kind of stripped down to its bare bones and set up for exactly how I do it. But this is so handy for holding the chainstays, for doing the bottom bracket cut, and then also brazing the dropouts to the chainstays. And then I've got another Cobra tool here. This is the Cobra fork building jig. This is my second fork building jig, and I am so incredibly happy with this. And you can see on the info plate, this is the second one I've ever made. And I love it. It's another really good tool from Cobra. This blue rolly cart here is my kind of in progress bench. I'll keep my bike CAD drawings of the frames and forks that I'm working on here. I'll keep any information that's important to remember written on here. And then I'll just grab the parts box, drop it on here, and then it's just nice and easy and laid out and keeps my workbench a little bit more free for building stuff. And then down here is my in progress frame up builds. So this is for a fun bike that I'm building next week. Toolbox tour. Up top in these plastic drawers, I keep some more kind of like spec sheets from manufacturers, like crank clearances, bag sizes, more UDH junk, and then some like bending diagrams for different handlebars, direct mount rim brakes and that kind of stuff. And in the next drawer, I've got all of my customer bike CAD drawings, so I can reference back to these if I ever have to do a repair, or if the customer ever has any questions down the line. I keep them all in here. And then in this bottom drawer is where I keep all of my chainstay drawings. So on these drawings, I'll do the dropouts down here, the tire in the size that the customer's running, and then the crank width and chainring width, so that when I do chainstay layouts, I can mark where the dimples are, I can mark where the cuts are, and it makes my job so much easier. And I have these chainstay drawings for pretty much every bike that I've built. A lot of my mountain bikes use the same, or at least similar chainstay lengths, so I can always reference back to those. And then here I keep like all of my acid brushes, electrical tape, epoxies and glues and that kind of stuff. This is just car stuff, I think, for the most part. I got my grinder up here, shop towels, fluid film, which is what I coat the inside of all my frames with. If you've got a steel frame, pick up a bottle of this stuff and blast it in there every year, and your frame will be a lot less rusty. A good amount of junk in the top drawer. Electrical and automotive stuff, circuit pliers, hacksaw blades, knife sharpener. Oh, and then some metal polishes. That's fun. This drawer is all of my drill bits, taps. These I think they're for like car fender hardware, but they're like non-pointy picks, which is super handy. And I've got pointy picks, and then just like a handful of dies. I don't really use dies for much more than like cleaning off my hole saw covers. Strap wrench, that was handy to have around. A couple of different hammers, including my favorite hammer, this cute little rifling hammer. This is all of my kind of bike shop tools, derailleur hanger alignment tool, wheel dishing tool for the wheel building that I do, headset, pusher router, Crombie, bracket cut tools, which is ever growing but also never seems to be all of the ones that I actually need to fix a bike. And then suspension servicing tools are over here. And then this is like the frame. This is like the frame building drawer here. I've got my collection of tube blocks from Paragon Machine Works, so I can hold tubes and easily clamp them in plane every time. This I use for cutting chainstays, so it makes it so that you can clamp tapered surfaces in a vise. Spare hole saws, TIG welding stuff. This is like a 3D printed tube block that I made for like the one frame I ever made with a 44mm down tube. I've got some spare hole saws and like the common sizes that I use. And then over here, I've got all of the different cups for my Cobra jig. So I've got like a PF41 and mid BMX bottom bracket cup, 44mm head tube, IS42 head tube, all kinds of different stuff. And then hardware for all my dummy axles. And then, since I do repairs on old frames and build frames, I have pretty much every axle standard imaginable, from 120 track to 110 BMX to 148, and then the same kind of thing for front axles as well. I've got them all. This is something that I've been slowly building over time, and it's nice to know that when I get a frame in the shop, I'll have the right axle for it. And then as we go down here, this is like my day-to-day drawer. I've got my screwdriver handled Allen keys, a couple screwdrivers, some precision screwdrivers, all of my different Nipex pliers. This is like a plier organizer that I designed and 3D printed. And then this magnetic tray is from Snap-on, and I keep Dremel stuff, metric Allen keys, Imperial Allen keys, and then these are some 3D printed like soft jaws for the Nipex pliers, which are nice for pushing anything soft around with the Nipex pliers. And then this drawer is my collection of files, big and small and tiny. My FAR Tools disc brake jig. This jig will do pretty much every brake standard on every axle standard imaginable. I pretty much only do IS brake mount frames, so this is the setup that gets the most abuse. And on this side of the drawer, I have my tire dummy tool that I design and sell tools and files for. This allows people to slap one of these in their frame that they're building. It'll clamp onto a dummy axle, and then you can check tire clearances just with this laser cut tool, and it's adjustable from 20-inch to 29-inch, and you can get all kinds of different attachments for it for all different sizes. Sockets, wrenches, nothing too exciting in here. I keep all of these dummy seat posts in here in the sizes that I use, so that once a frame is frame shaped, I can slap one of those seat posts in there and hold it into my frame jig nice and easy. This is my clamp drawer. I've got everything from vice grips to normal C-clamps to the Cobra frame building braze-on clamps. These are super nice for putting rack mounts on frames, and I also use them when I'm holding my stainless steel logos in place while I'm brazing. And then I've also got like a bottom bracket press in here, because if you think about it, a bottom bracket press is just a clamp. And then this is the most expensive drawer in any frame builder's shop. I've got my Park Tool headset and bottom bracket reamer facer. I've got the Cyclist T47 bottom bracket thread chaser, Park Tool BSA bottom bracket thread chaser, Cyclist seat post reamer. This is a 27.2 long seat post reamer that I can just put in the vise. This is a 28.6 reamer that I use when I'm making stems. And then this will do crown races in from 1 1/8, 1 inch, and also 1.5 inch. Frame alignment tool. And then in here, I've got this really cool niche. I don't know many people that have one of these. It's from Stein Tool, and it's for facing stems. So it makes it so that your headset adjustment is perfect if you have a face stem and a faced head tube. Really cool tool to have. And then I've got a couple of really cute little reamers for 15 mil and 12 mil. Once I get frames back from paint or powder, these just speed up the cleanup process. And then the last drawer, I've got my DSLR. I've got my stem jig. I use this pretty often, but it just doesn't fit any other drawer. And I keep some water bottles mounted up in water bottle cages with the hole placement marked, so that when I'm building frames, I can quickly check water bottle clearance, especially on seat tubes of mountain bikes where the clearance is pretty small. It's nice to be able to check a big bottle and a small bottle just to see where it's going to go. And I've got my tube bender for racks, the Imperial 370H. Pretty much every time I use this tool, someone asks me what it is. Imperial 370H. It is an incredible tube bender. You can bend up to 3/8 by 0.49 with it. You can bend a 1/2 inch by like 0.35. Really great tool. Really, really great.